He opens his eyes to a strange room and can't believe what he is seeing. At first he was so shocked, he slapped himself just to check if he was dreaming. When he feels real pain, he isn't scared at all. Instead, he can't stop himself from being happy. Suddenly a system message appeared, giving him the HP system that lets him heal his internal organs and spend that energy to unlock new skills or summon creatures. There's just one issue. His health is stuck at 0, and he still doesn't get what that means for him. Back in the real world, he opened his own clinic, but it didn't turn out well. During the pandemic, many of his patients fell ill and turned against his clinic, accusing it of causing their infections. Before he could catch his breath, he was broke and drowning in debt. One night, drunk from too many drinks, he leaped off the bridge. That's how he found himself in a brand new world, with a fresh body. Now that his debts are gone, he leaps out of bed in joy, only to immediately crash back down, showing that something is terribly wrong with his body. His own doctor, Gordon, dashes in and tells him to calm down and keep perfectly still. He stared at his hand and realized something strange. This body felt as weak as that of an old man. Even though he was still young, he feels a chill of fear as he realizes his character is stuck in bed and only get a tiny moment to show up in the whole story. And not only that, he passes away at just 22 years old. Fear gripping his chest, he asks Gordon how old he is, and Gordon tells him he's 21. As he hears these words, he clenches his jaw tight. He had happily left his debt behind to live as a crown prince, unaware of his condition, but now a terrible fear has struck him because he only has 1 year left to live. He thought about the book where the crown prince died, even though everyone tried their best to save him, and in the end nothing could stop his fate. Staring into the mirror, he realizes that everything he's seeing points to just one solution. Thinking about it, he turns to Gordon and asks him to bring every single needle he can find, big or small, because he's decided to treat himself. He feels his pulse, trying to figure out what's wrong with him. He stares at his 10 strange pulses, hoping to spot a sign of illness so he knows if an injury is growing inside him. Just then Gordon stops him and sets down the needles he had ordered right in front of him. After taking a good look at them, he reaches out and picks one up. Gordon couldn't help but wonder why Gordon was heating up that needle. He arrogantly says he'll stick himself with it, which terrifies Gordon, who thinks his master is going to hurt himself. So he begs him not to. Our boy tries to calm Gordon down by explaining he's doing it for a good reason and asking him to trust him, so Gordon slowly agrees with that. He strips off his shirt, lies down on his bed, calms his breathing to steady himself, and prepares to pierce the needle into his most vital organ, right where the Tao Yuan point, the long meridian, sits near his shoulder. He carefully pokes the tender spot, wincing at the needle's thickness, before shifting his focus to the acupoints, first along, then cloud gate, and finally the upper arm assembly. After finishing the first round, he opens his eyes. It feels like he was given the gift of making acupuncture work perfectly. By using this trick on his body, he heals his lungs a bit, causing a funny moment where his happy dancing ones give him 2 thumbs up to restore 100 HD, which has 100 power, leaving him totally confused as he reads the new info on screen. Our boy can't stop staring at the status window right in front of him, seeing how bad Gordon looks. The poor guy thinks he's lost his mind and starts crying all over again. The prince tells him not to panic. He turns away from his emotional doctor and chooses to strike a different spot, near his shoulder blade instead. He pressed the human acupoint with perfect skill, and the heavy feeling in his chest began to fade away. He then presses points on his arms. That hurt even more than before, but he keeps going without flinching. Watching him in this state, Gordon begins to pray to God for his health, while our guy takes the next step by poking at the Yingji acupoint to massage his lungs just like a massage chair. Frustrated by the silly things showing on his screen, and wishing for some HP points instead, he then targets the Qi acupoint on his palm to finally seal the deal and complete the treatment for the left lung meridian. So he gains 100 HP to reach 600 total, plus 200 HP from each of his lungs. Now that his health is high enough, he can finally use his special power. His screen pops up to ask if he wants to buy some new skills. He picks up the book, recalling the thrilling fantasy stories where heroes suddenly master warrior or mage powers, and decides to see if this one holds up too. Against his hopes, the skills he learned in his past life are all about medicine and treatment. To see the list, he chooses to check the pulse, a vital clue that lets him find the illness and set the stage for the right cure. He spends 500 HP to unlock the first stage of this skill. Once he learns this skill, he can quickly tell what's wrong with his patients and later see the full details in their basic health reports. He decides to check his pulse again to be sure. He reviews his report, only for the system to deliver a shocking verdict. His body is failing fast, and he's just 3 months left to live. He thinks it's even shorter than that phone contract. He focused his energy on the acupressure points, trying a new needle twirling technique, while breathing out as he pulled them away, only to be shocked when his life suddenly gained an extra day. So excited that he tried it on his other hand and ended up bleeding unlike before. His system warns that he's done too much acupuncture, and suggests he wait 3 days before trying again. Now his organs are shown lying on the floor. He realizes that while acupuncture is healing him, his body is too weak to keep up with the treatment, meaning he can only survive another month before passing away. After thinking it over, he decides he needs medicine to heal his body, so he goes to see Garden, the doctor of this world, and asks for a stronger ingredient, which makes Garden hesitate a bit. He asks if they have wolfsbane root, but Gordon explains that since they are in his palace, they must get it from the main one. He promises to do it, but he still wants to know exactly what he plans to do with it. Our guy deadpans that he's going to eat it, and the poor doctor starts begging him not to do it. He tells the doctor he's only using the wolfsbane for his own treatment, but the doctor remains doubtful. So our boy explains that Gordon already knows the root is poisonous since it is used to make poison. Just then, Gordon bluntly warns that it could stop his heart, but our boy admits it's true while insisting he knows exactly how to turn this tonic into medicine. Didn't find the whole thing pretty weird. Our boy goes on to explain that he will use a process called detoxification to turn the poison into medicine. He asks if Garden finally gets it. Garden admits he knows nothing about it, but since it might help him get health, he decides to give it a try. As he heads to the pharmacy to fetch the root, he worries that nothing is slowing his master's decline. Now he's ready to trust this new cure, but he decides to eat it himself first, to make sure it won't hurt his master. Once our boy finds the root, he turns it into a tonic. Gordon looks very unsure when he sees this strange liquid, and says it's made from something poisonous. Then he pleads with him not to take it, and seeing Garden's pathetic behavior, our boy decides to give Garden a scare by offering him a taste first. The good news made Garden's face light up since he wanted to give it a try, so he happily agreed to test it out. Seeing how ready our boy is to risk his life for him, the narrator realizes that in the story, Garden is a man of such fierce loyalty to the crown prince that he began not as a doctor, but simply as an assistant. Even though every doctor who tries to cure him walks away as time goes on, he stands firm until the crown prince dies, and then he is put to death for being blamed for the prince's passing. Watching him, our boy believes he deserves a good life, but sharing his tonic with him is a different matter, one he simply won't agree to. After a while, he finally finishes making the tonic known as the Ephedra Aconite Astramed decoction. The gardener is ready to drink it, but our boy stops him and says to wait until it's cold. While the gardener suddenly wonders how our crown prince knows the secret medicine recipe, our boy makes up a story, saying a mage told him in a dream that he must make this dish. Gordon claims he trusts our prince, but his face tells a different story. He glances at the clock, chugs the medicine in a panic, and leaves the terrified doctor frozen in place. He looks at his doctor with innocent eyes and claims he ate it all. Suddenly, his heart starts pounding hard, and he knows something big is about to happen. In that very moment, his body signals that the perfectly brewed Ephedra Aconite in his RMT has melted away his soreness and chill, sped up his metabolism, and ignited a hidden core energy deep within him. That word grabs his attention. The Asurahan core energy is a special power, created by Grandmaster Javier Asurahan and his loyal aide Lloyd, passed down only to the imperial family's direct bloodline as their sacred symbol. Living inside the crown prince's body, he learned this secret power from a young age, and now that he has unlocked its first stage to swirl his energy around his heart, he has boosted his mana to 120, though he still needs 1000 health points to reach the next level. So he feels the glowing mana circle beating in his chest, and the cool energy flowing through him with every breath, and he can't stop smiling because it feels so amazing. Suddenly a sharp stab hits his heart, and it feels like it's about to burst right out of his chest. Gordon's heart sinks when he sees him clutching his chest. However, a warning sounds that the pressure from the glowing mana circle around his heart is dangerously close to stopping it. So when he realizes the circle is growing too big compared to his heart, he suspects that this expanding ring is the very thing causing the trouble. He remembers Raquel, who was sickly as a child and couldn't practice her magic circles. So knowing the mana circle around his heart is squeezing it too tight and could cause disaster, he decides to take another step to make that circle bigger. He turns inward to his own heart. Standing before the glowing mana circle, that is tightening around it like a noose, he sprints toward his beating heart, grabs the circle's reins and pushes it to spin faster. Ignoring the pain that reminds him of his past life where his clinic was shut down, the stress of being in debt didn't just make him lose his patience, it also made his hair start to fall out. Every kind of loan adds up until he's about to sell his beautiful house. Thinking hard, he finally acts, opening his eyes to see his worried doctor watching him. The system tells him his heart has finally woken up thanks to the good energy it felt, so now that he's the boss of all the organs, his heart makes a grand flashy entrance to a warm welcome from the large intestine, while the lungs just sneer at him for being shabbed. Seeing them makes our boy annoyed, but his irritation vanishes when his system reveals he's the only one in history to get a special mana circle slot. A mysterious feature he guesses is like an empty space in a game, while Garden worries about his recent pain and suspicious cough, which our boy tries to hide by claiming he just choked on flame. But Garden doesn't buy. He stubbornly claims our boy is in terrible pain while whining that he deserves to go first, only for our boy to snap that he'll be given the deadly drink next time if Gordon is so eager to have one, which makes his doctor rush in to protest and make it clear he never meant any harm. He casually tells him to clean up the mess on the floor if the doctor doesn't want it. Before moving forward, he turns to his doctor to say thank you, leaving the doctor completely stunned and fearing that our hero might go crazy from drinking that poison. While on his journey, our hero is thrilled to discover mana slots, which act like special pockets where he can stash up to 10 liters of any material mixed with magical energy. He has to eat that stuff so he can save it away. After meditating, he tries using the technique but isn't sure where to keep it first. Then he spots the jug of water and decides to try something new with it. Staring at the water, he remembered a way to measure poison called the median lethal dose. Eating just half of the amount that usually kills someone could either end a life or fill it with unbearable agony. He studied the numbers and figured out that if you had 60 kilos of water, it would take 5.4 liters to be deadly. But for a person of his size and weight, that amount would be closer to just 3.9 liters. He lifts the heavy water jug to his lips, ignoring how weak his body feels, and drinks it while believing he's storing its power for a special purpose. He was shocked that drinking a whole liter of water didn't make him feel full at all, so he fills up his 10-liter space just to try something new. After pouring 10 liters into a slot, he releases just 1/10 of a liter and feels surprisingly full. He realizes he is like a human camel, able to keep water stored inside him. After testing the water, he decides to try mixing it with tonic soup, but he knows he can't dump all his 9.9 liters at once because his body just can't handle that much water. All at once, he suddenly had an idea and used his Asura hand core technique to boost and push the water out of his body instead of letting it stay inside. Focusing only on pushing the water out, he's shocked when it actually works, but the next step of pouring it back fails when he can't hold the technique, and the jug shatters, instantly alerting the guards who rush in. While he realizes his water trick has turned into a dangerous cannon instead of simple tap water, Gordon and the other guards rush in to ask if a terrorist attack has happened. He fumbles for a lie, his voice shaking as he stumbles out an excuse. Then he claims he smashed the jug in anger. The guards accept the story, and one even asks if he's hurt, so he nervously admits to only a scratch on his foot before the guard asks Gordon to lead him to room 2, which he agrees to do after fixing the wound. Slung over Gordon's back for a piggyback ride, he feels a surge of pride, realizing that even his worst excuses are accepted simply because he is the crown prince. Gordon carries him to the bed and steps away, telling him to get some rest too. Once Gordon was lost, he began to replay the moments of his Asura hand training in his mind. He pumped up the energy inside him and shot it out through his hand, but it exploded forward like a powerful stream of water. So for now, he decides to rest and walk on eggshells next time, just in case anyone starts wondering about him. Meanwhile, the Emperor learns that his son is stabbing himself with needles and drinking poison, which makes him furious since he can't figure out what his son is trying to do. The next morning, he finishes brewing 10 liters of his medicine, but since Gordon is right there and he fears he might faint just looking at it, he can't bring himself to drink it in front of her, so he asked Gordon to hang outside for a bit. Gordon deadpanned that he's just gonna drink it, pointing out how much it hurt last time, and even bringing up the excuse he made, claiming he choked on phlegm, while Gordon expressed concern over the fact that he's made so much tonic this time. Our boy makes an excuse saying he's just testing it out, but he knows he can't finish the whole thing and only plans to take a tiny bit. Just then, Gordon tries to laugh it off and say he can't help it, but our hero is too impatient with his worry and tosses him out of the kitchen. Afterwards, he shuts the door and chugs the entire 10 liters of tonic in one go, filling his mana slots, and now all that remains is to let it loose. As he goes about his day, he slowly releases the tonic into his body, which helps his organs get better and restores his health. Now that his health bar sits at 500, he feels a mix of nervous excitement and a burning desire to live longer, so he keeps pumping medicine into himself non-stop. Meanwhile, in the world inside his organs, the heart reaches out to the large intestine for today's meal plan, only to be told that they have a steady supply of a feeder, aconite, and asarum ready to serve. with the exact same menu waiting for the next day as well. She starts apologizing wildly, leaving him confused since she's only broken a cup. He finally gets his answer when she begs him not to whip her like last time, seeing the prince whipping the girl. He freezes in fear and begs her to say he did it just to stop, but she sadly shakes her head and admits he didn't do it himself. He wonders what she did to deserve such a harsh punishment. She admits to spilling a drop of water on his sleeve, and this makes him realize the crown prince must be truly cruel. He frowns at the mess, so he sits on his bed, tells her to clean up and go, and her face lights up as she walks away. He turns to Gordon and asks about his past actions toward him and the other servants since he can't remember much about himself. Gordon tries to play it smooth but warns him that if he does, he'll eat all the poison right in front of him, then reminds him of how cruel and rude he's been to the servants. He's fed up after hearing all that. He even gets why the guards bought his silly excuse about breaking that bottle right. Then another question pops up. Why does someone like Gordon stay so fiercely loyal to him? He asked Gordon why he isn't afraid, and Gordon softly explained that he knows Gordon's true nature and trusts him. A bond shown in a flashback, where Gordon once protected a tiny chick from the rain while getting soaked himself. Remembering this, he says he believes Raquel will help him become kinder again as his health gets better. Gordon feels like he's already hearing Raquel say thank you. He gives Gordon a pastry that the boy takes with a frown, and right then he swears he will never let Gordon be blamed for his death, meaning he must stay alive to make that promise come true. Suddenly a servant crashes through the door, shouting that the emperor wants to see him. The scene moves to the great royal palace, where Raquel steps forward to meet his father's court. The moment he greets his father, the emperor spots the awakened Asura technique shining from him. He also picks up on our guy's nervousness, while our boy is too tired from bowing to stand up, yet he waits patiently for his master to calm down. The emperor asks if life in his quiet side palace suits him and is told it does, yet he remains annoyed that he must bow to speak, then inquires what news has reached him. While the man pierces himself with a needle and drinks poison at home, he tries to deny it, but the emperor starts rambling about losing his dignity as crown prince and offers the throne to his second brother instead, only for our guy to politely refuse. The emperor is furious, but our hero pauses, realizing the king has the right to punish him, yet chooses only to prove to the world that his son acts out of love for his younger brother. So he accepts this clever political trap, but vows to fight back no matter how weak he feels. The emperor gets so mad he jumps off his throne and shouts that the other man is bringing shame to the royal family just to keep the crown prince title. Our guy laughs off the title because he knows from reading the novel that the second prince is simply not tough enough to face the upcoming age of cow. So he brings down the imperial family and the empire. But then he tells the emperor that he doesn't care about his title, only about his family's future. So he offers him a chance to show he's better than the second prince. Then the story moves to the side palace, where Gordon nervously waits to find out why the emperor has called him. He tells him everything, including the shocking news that he must duel the second prince, which makes Hug Doctor pack his bags to leave. Once his master wins the fight, the girls target the second prince, Theodore. So while our hero is warming up for the duel, Theodore steps in to stop him, pleading that he won't risk his life just to hand the throne to his brother since everyone already knows the outcome. But our hero scoffs at the misunderstanding, declaring he has no intention of losing. Before the duel begins, people whisper in disbelief that the crown prince would dare challenge the second prince, who holds the powerful Asura core and seems unbeatable in a single circle. The flashback shows our guy working out with Gordon standing beside him, laughing that the fight is just a joke. But our guy calmly replies that no one expects him to win, which is actually perfect because it takes the pressure off. Gordon hesitantly claims he can win, but our guy spots the lie in his face. Then he explains that all he needs to do is block 3 attacks from his brother to win in the present moment. Gordon prays for his master's safety. The match begins, and the emperor lays out the rules. If our guy can survive his brother's attacks for 5 minutes, he wins, but if he fails, the second prince takes the victory. Now the two brothers face off, but Theodore just wants to finish this fight quickly. The moment the match begins, everyone freezes in shock as the crown prince tosses his sword aside, leaving them to wonder if he has already given up. Watching his sick brother, Theodore feels a mix of relief that he doesn't have to fight and shame that his family might be disgraced, so he wonders if he should push his brother to fight just a little more. But as he steps in front of the shield, he realizes the crown prince isn't trying to hit him hard, he just wants to keep his weaker attacks going. For 5 straight minutes, he gives a smug grin, already convinced he'll win the fight. In a flash, the emperor sees his second son's fierce attack will break his first son, and the second prince even strikes from above to save his brother from falling in shame. But to everyone's surprise, our guy manages to dodge the attack. Someone remarks that the second prince is so kind he hits weakly, letting the prince dodge it with ease. The second prince strikes him hard again and sends him flying, yet he manages to stay on his feet. His body grows weak as his condition worsens, yet he refuses to lose his tool, relying on years of police training to dodge every blow. Now he tucks behind the shield, just as the second prince charges, soaking up mana far faster than anyone thought possible. Our guy smiles, with something strange going on in his mind. Meanwhile, the second prince is just as ready to fight. He ramps up his strike, jumps high into the air, and then smashes straight down onto our boy. But my guy takes the hit without flinching because he trained his legs to prepare for that exact moment. He told the blacksmith to make a special shield for him and put the potion in his mana slots to keep safe for his little brother. The system asks how much of that strange mixture he wants to let out of his body, and he answers that he'll let go of just 0.2 liters. With that, his brother swallows the mana-rich drink. His face turns red from all the gulping, and he starts hiccuping. Theodore is completely lost about what's happening to his body, while Raquel remembers reading that he can't handle any alcohol, so she loaded up his slot with different drinks and dumped them into his brother's body. Theodore is straining to pull himself up to beat his brother, but he has no idea what's driving him. He is ready to step up and win the praise of his dad, the love of the people, and the royal title, believing that becoming crown prince is the best path for them all. To make this happen, he has to win. Thinking about this, he charges at his stunned brother, who can't believe he survived the explosive cocktail blast, and he fires another small blast of liquid at his brother. As the second prince lands in his brother's world of organs, Art serves him a drink while pointing out that the person who gave it is his own brother, who then raises his glass in a toast. Theodore stares in stunned disbelief, certain he's going crazy. When the crown prince saw his brother wasted and dazed, he decided to step in and help him. He unleashes the liquid power stored in his mana slots against his brother, striking him with everything he has and sending him crashing to the floor. Everyone standing there is frozen in shock by this sudden twist of fate. Watching his sons fight, the emperor realizes Raquel used the Asura hand core he once misunderstood, and he can feel its power glowing around her, even with hundreds of people nearby. But when Theodore opens his eyes, he sees his brother standing right at his feet. His brother insists that he's finally cleaned up his dirty mana. Theodore instantly spots the Azuroth core and wonders how his weak brother could possibly wield it, only to hear his brother shrug it off as something he just learned a bit too late. Theodore stared at his broken sword, whispered that he had lost, and his brother replied that he probably couldn't believe it. Then he spots blood on his brother's forehead, and our boy admits he took the hit while trying to protect his brother from his attack. Hearing this, Theodore realizes he had been too proud during the fight, assuming he'd win all on his own while ignoring what his brother did. Then our boy stands up to check on his brother. His brother misunderstood his words and felt ashamed, but Raquel explained he was only asking about his health. And then Theodore bowed to his brother to show everyone how skilled the crown prince really is. Suddenly a screen pops up, and our hero cheers because he finally made it, thinking his gesture meant he had beaten his brother. Gordon breaks down in tears when he finally sees him. Our guy's system cheers him on for helping others, unlocking a special skill called requested medical treatment fees that lets him gain a bit of extra life every time he heals someone. However, he realizes this trick only adds 1 day to his life at a time, which grumbles a bit on his mood because it's so slow, but he still goes for it since it works better than just using acupoints or tonics. His father cuts through his thoughts to ask if he used the Azrahan core in the fight, and after he admits it, his father demands to know where he got it. He admits he doesn't know the truth because he can't tell his father that the healing ability came as a reward, while his father seems to accept it, saying the power was there at birth, but remained locked away until now. Because of his sickness, the emperor says, our boy has learned to make his imperfect body work for him. Thinking his dad was praising him, he thanked him, but the old man stopped him to say he'd ruin his plan, leaving the boy confused about what his father really meant. The emperor turned his back on the man, reassuring his son that even though he had his doubts, he still recognized him as the crown prince. Just as he had promised, he stops and warns him that he'll be watching closely to see if he can truly earn the throne. All of this is making our guy furious, but the emperor is so fed up with his silence that he's shouting for him to say something. Instead of giving a direct answer, the crown prince suggests his father keep practicing sword fighting to loosen his stiff muscles. He says he needs to eat more veggies and quit smoking. The emperor angrily asks to his son to give him such advice, but the boy honestly says he only speaks out of care for his father. And later the emperor rides in his carriage, scoffing at how his son has changed. It looks like he's also worried his son might use the Azrahan core technique too recklessly and hurt himself. He used to feel crushed by the heavy expectations placed on him even while he was sick, but after everything that happened today, he finally sees a tiny spark of hope for his son's future. On his ride home, our guy is sad about skipping school to hear the news that his dad died, and now he wishes he'd studied instead. But it's already too late to change that. Thinking of the Emperor's last hope, he vows to shield his father with his skills, to prolong his own life. But as Garden appears again with tears in his eyes, he asks his master why he is crying. Still feeling awkward, he asked him anyway. Garden beams with pride, boasting that his master fought through whatever pain it took to win. He waves off Garden's worry, saying he'll rest now, because he has so much to do tomorrow. Noticing his confusion, he explains he must meet someone the next day, and later Garden is seen at Sorrentino, one of the capital's top 10 restaurants, where a man asks if he knows the place. He tells you that he's just a regular there. It turns out the man at the table is actually our crown prince in disguise, who asks the waiter for grape wine without any grapes and says he wants to eat until sunrise. Just as he gives the order, the waiter gestures for him to follow, and though Gordon watches in confusion from his seat, the young man tells him to get up and keep moving, promising everything will make sense soon. After a while, the waiter guides them down the stairs. Gordon is still puzzled about how the crown prince found out about this secret place. He only knows about it because he read it in a story. Gordon asks why he is there, and he gives a confused answer about collecting treatment fees, leaving Gordon puzzled. Changing the subject, he asks Gordon if he knows a man named Damien. When Gordon shakes his head no, he doesn't explain further, but instead walks to the top of the stairs and opens the door. There they discover a fighting arena where two warriors clash, to the roar of a cheering crowd. And Gordon asks once more about this strange place. He smiles and says it's a secret spot. Then he looks around and spots a tough guy standing in the ring. Gordon wonders if this is the Damien he talked about, but he shakes his head and says no. Suddenly the door at the far end swung open, showing the main character from the book he was reading. This person is Damien Kane. As Damien steps into the Colosseum, the entire crowd erupts into cheers. The boss orders his scary bodyguard to get out, then brings in a 17-year-old Damien who's about to start in a big fight, and over just 3 months of fighting his way through the criminal world, earns the title of sword genius. Then they let Damien's opponent into the arena, a roaring troll charging straight at him. Our boy, who has been watching the show, is now scared to see a real troll there too. Garden protests, thinking they plan to feed a human to the troll. Down below, a raging troll swings wildly at Damien, but he dances out of every blow until he draws his blade and cuts the giant in half, leaving the crowd stunned. While Damien realizes this legend is exactly the famous rival of the Grandmaster he read about in the story, he commands Garden to follow, then steps forward to lead the way. Soon the huge man blocks their path and warns them to turn back, but the moment our crown prince presses a heavy gold brick into his hand, the giant lets them walk right inside. He holds his bottle of cheap painkillers with confidence, but wonders if he should really take them. Damien asks why he's really there, or if he's just selling medicine, and gives a vague answer, while Damien tries to wave him away, saying he's had enough of them. Our boy says those cheap pills don't do anything for that constant, throbbing pain at the back of his head. Now he pays attention and begins to explain that his pain starts at the back of his head, making his neck and scalp feel stiff and itchy. He asks if his shoulders and neck feel like they've gone numb. Our guy spots the same suspicious look in Damien's eyes, and since he knows these things, explains again how Damien feels intense pain from the sides of his head and between his eyes. Not only that, but he stands up straight with goosebumps all over his skin and his eyes go white. He's not just talking about his problems, he's actually acting them out as he describes them. As Damien watches him closely, our hero plays the part of a dramatic actor, arguing that relying on painkillers is no way to solve the real problem. Damien feels so angry at him that he seriously thinks about killing him. For a second, finally, he tells Damien to speak with his mouth, which only makes Damien angrier since he thinks the other is stopping him from talking. So he jokingly admits the truth, that he is the crown prince, which annoys Damien even more, prompting him to lie and claim he was sent by Cosman, Damien's sponsor, who is worried about the lack of ingredients. This season, Damien has no clue what his son is rambling about, so he asked him to explain what he means. Our boy shows us the fresh trick he discovered to stop the pain. Damien asked if this needed new medicine, but our boy replied that the cure isn't just taking a pill. They must find and remove the source of his pain. So he asked him to take off his shirt and lie down so he could show exactly how he would fix it. Damien does exactly as he is told, his back covered in scars. And when our boy jokes about him being scared, the warrior scoffs, irritated that he's hurt people and been hurt in return, which instantly silences the teasing. He then scoops up a chunk of Mock Sebastian and asks if this is his first time seeing something like it. Our guy puts a Moxa stick on his back to heal him, then he shoots the goo on his back, and Damien just shrugs it off, saying that something like this doesn't even scare a warrior like him. But after a while he shakes with pain, which makes our boy laugh at it. He prays with all his heart that he can survive the pain. He ponders that man with the cursed mark on his back, the very reason he is trapped in the underworld and never leaves. Every time he steps into the ring, the pain is so bad he takes tons of pills, and he even has to borrow money and fight again just to pay off his debts. He is the story's main character, who now curses Kuzman for forcing this cruel cycle on Damien, and desperately tries to rub the mark off his back. He cheerfully believes that curing Damien will both save his life and win him a loyal ally. So he plans to treat the other gladiators next. Once the treatment is done, he tells him to stand up and stares closely at the mark on his back, which he has successfully sealed shut. He asks how he feels right now, and Damien, looking shocked, says he feels refreshed for the first time in ages. Our boy says he needs more treatments, but he mustn't touch his back blisters, eat greasy food, or push himself too hard, which really stings him to hear. Our boy says he won't fight, but Kuzman protests that he won't allow it, so the boy comforts him by promising to handle the trouble himself. Damien realizes his friend isn't who he said, so he asks in confusion who he really is. Our boy chooses to drop the issue and tells Damien to just do whatever he's been told. He sternly orders him to stay away from the Colosseum for his own safety, explaining that it's the only way they can meet, which makes Damien blush and happily agree. On the way back, Gordon is flooded with questions about this illegal place, but he simply asked for help finding a man with black hair in a ponytail and slit eyes. After checking a few spots, he spots a man in a bar, sits down, and immediately asks for the total debt and contract-breaking costs to buy his freedom. Then Kuzman asks for 9 trillion megan, a price only a crown prince could pay. So our boy reveals he is the prince, only for the other man to laugh and claim that if Frackle is a crown prince, then he must be the one selling the medicine. Then he tells him to go away if he doesn't want to buy medicine. As our boy walks away, he calls a man to dig into our dude's identity, even ordering him to use any torture needed to crack the secret. After an hour, the man sent to torture our crown prince is dragged before him bleeding and broken, leaving the ruler baffled until his guards reveal that the secret royal inspector has arrived. Our boy pulls off his wig to reveal the royal badge. An hour ago, Gordon and his boys slipped away while keeping an eye on Kuzman's shadow, and their guide whispered to stay calm, so the hunter wouldn't guess. They knew he was watching a movie made because he knew Kuzman would send a tale the moment he showed up. In the next blink, the stalker turns and bumps right into the royal inspector, who has been told by the guards that the stalker's trying to kill the crown prince. Now they step forward to face Kuzman. Our boy gives the badge back to the secret royal inspector while Kuzman tries to understand what's happening, but before Kuzman can do anything, our boy commands his royal guards to raid the place and grab him on his command. Everyone rushes to take control of the place as he dashes toward the gate to hide until the crown prince stops hunting for Damien. He wonders about the prince's strange desire to buy him. The moment he pushes the door open, he stands right before a wall of sharp swords, and our hero, having just bet his doctor he'll walk out the other side, now demands 500 megan from the poor man. Next he steps forward and stammers about how crucial it is to pay for one medicine, but when Kuzman yells at him in disbelief, the man explains that he only wants to clear Damien's medical bills with a great offer only for Kuzman to throw it all away. When he heard this, his anger flared so much he swung at the man, only to slam right into the royal guard's iron fists and get told to stay down. With no way out, he chooses to swallow the poison capsule and spit into the bomb. After 5 seconds, he spits the capsule that freezes everyone nearby, letting him slip away to take down the crown prince. He was happy with his perfect plan and ready to split the capsule as he counted down from 5 to 1, but just before he could spit it out, Rackle slapped his mouth shut, and Kuzman realized she knew every single move he was making. Just as the bomb timer hit 0, it blew up right inside his mouth. The paralysis is starting, and he must rush to take the antidote right away. With shaking hands, he tries to pull the note from his pocket, but our hero, who has read the story and knows everything, snatches the antidote from his grip and asks if he wants to learn where that knowledge came from. To the goon's horror, our hero chugs the antidote right in front of him while poking him and declaring he won't spill a thing. To taunt him, he mocks the bitter taste of the antidote. Kuzman begs for the antidote, but our boy carelessly tosses it onto his back and refuses to help, blaming Rackle for poisoning him in the first place. With the antidote now safe in his mana slots, he plans to use his medical skills to live longer, so he presses about 1.5 inches on both sides of the spot just below his rib cage to move the heart transporter points. With that, Kuzman tosses the poison into the air, Then he swallowed the antidote and waited for it to start working. A few seconds later, our guy's treatment kicks in and he loses consciousness. To reward him, he gets to live 118 more days. He then tells his guards to grab them. Now he's ready to finally achieve the one reason he came here. Now the scene jumps to Damien leading his gladiators, who are tearing into the guards and leaving many of them hurt. Suddenly, Backwell steps out and he knows it's her right away. Then the scene shifts to a dream where young Damien stands before his mother who has passed away. He realizes he is dreaming about the day he was left all alone. Suddenly, someone snaps him back to reality, and when he opens his eyes, he finds himself standing before a man named Garden, who introduces himself. While Damien shakes his hand and tells him his own name, the Crown Prince breaks up their introduction and tells them both to follow him, since there are so many things to do. Later, they walk into a clinic where they get moxibustion. They even stumble upon other gladiators waiting in the shadows. Damien wonders where they are. He replies that it's a place where people get treated. One gladiator wonders why he treats them so kindly, having not only saved them from the underworld and offered them shelter in his palace, but also planning to care for them. As he watches the gladiators, he realizes he's healing their cursed mark to save them, but since they're so young, their life force also helps him live longer himself. He begins by admitting he won't do this out of kindness, since everyone knows he's already sick himself. One voice chimes in that the whole kingdom knows this truth. So our hero silently vows that this person will face the worst punishment, and then he keeps talking about how, since the doctor couldn't cure him, he's now taking matters into his own hands. He turns to Damien and checks if he's finally getting what he's trying to say. Damien replies that they've come to be his test subjects, and he confirms it with a nod. Though everyone is worried, our guy asks Damien how he felt after the last treatment, and Damien says he felt relief from his nerve pain. When everyone hears Damien is speaking up for the Crown Prince, they all let out a sigh of relief. He then checks with everyone to see if they feel nervous about having the treatment. When nobody responds, he tells them all to take off their shirts and lie down on the beds. 6 days later, every gladiator is shown battered and broken, vomiting and shivering from the cold without any painkillers to ease their suffering. Our boy is shaking a bit because he's too nervous to look at his treatment results yet. He turns to Damien to ask if he's feeling sick or about to vomit, and Damien admits that he is, but that he's still holding on. Now he sees that Damien is special because he is the main character for a reason. He sends everyone off to their rooms but tells Sergio to stay behind. He complains about how rough he feels from the withdrawal, but Sergio insists he's okay. He shows the needle and promises to help. But while he wonders if the treatment will work for Sergio, the boy who's taken painkillers the longest, he decides to try it on him near his stomach. As Sergio thinks, he stands up looking strong and powerful, then leaps at our guy to squeeze his throat with both hands. Raquel struggles to breathe, but Damien arrives just in time to show Sergio out of the way. He lifts a hand to pull himself up and checks if he's okay, and Raquel nods that he's fine. He stares at the still figure of Sergio and realizes that the man's painful withdrawal means even a tiny needle feels like a sword, so he must find a much thinner one to help him. After a while, he sits in his study reading a letter from a blacksmith who explains that only a tiny dwarf could make needles so fine they look like thread. Just then, a system message pops up to warn him that he is stressing too much and could get sick if he doesn't relax. His body is working hard to cool his heart and send him a warning signal. Seeing him lost, his system flashes a reminder that he can bring forth a monster or gain a new skill by spending his health points. He spends 300 HP on the summon catch, hoping the roll will give him a powerful new ally. His system tells him to speak out the traits he needs in his summon, asking for a beast that can give him plenty of needles that are all the same thickness. After his system logged his request, it showed him 3 weird choices: a happy summon that winks, an iron that shoots sparks, and a cactus that discharges energy. The system tells him that one scroll will work, one might, and one will not. Reading the warning, he knows picking a summon is like taking a risky gamble, so after struggling to decide, his impatient heart finally shouts for the cactus, and he reluctantly agrees. As his system gets his gift ready, he asks God for the right summon, and suddenly a very cute porcupine lands right in his hand. Now that his new summon is here, his system tells him he can grow it huge by feeding it red sunflower seeds or shrink it back to tiny by giving it blue ones. They call it Ghost Swam because it can grow endless thorns to stab its foes. He politely asks the spirit for 3 thorns in different colors, and it hands them over. He checks the white and brown potions, picks the one that hurts less, and gives it to the gladiator, though he fears the black one for its high pain level, and delays testing it on others. He warms his needle at the clinic, introduces his summon to Gordon, invents the story to dismiss him, and walks away, leaving Gordon baffled by the fact that he just met a real summon. Monster Legend says, a builder from 3 centuries ago summon rare and mysterious monsters to help him, and while the garden still wondered how'd he manage to get such strange creatures, Sergio now realizes he knows too little about his master, and inside the clinic, he apologizes to our guy for what happened yesterday. He brushes aside the apology, claiming the pain is gone because he has already stabbed so many needles into his body, much to the shock of Sergio, who seems to feel nothing at all. He then points to his arm where he just performed the treatment. From then on, he carried out this treatment for every single person. Not only does he grow stronger from using it, but his skill also improves the more people he helps. He looks so happy that his whole body shows it. Damien sees the Crown Prince beaming with joy. But he can't figure out why his friend is so happy, and wonders if he knows the truth about them. Coming back with Raquel's treatment finally over, he starts thinking up a new plan for them. The scene turns to the Emperor, who learns that his son now has a royal guard of forking gladiators. Standing by his side, he pays his workers, and gives them extra perks for their hard work. Suddenly, the Emperor bursts into laughter at his son's expense, who was supposed to be resting in bed, but is instead receiving a private squat. Only for the mood to shift, he learns that the Crown Prince invites every servant and guard to his side just to poke them with needles. The Crown Prince plays doctor with his army of servants. He asks the guard if the needles hurt, and the guard says no, even though his face clearly shows he is in pain. Then he calls out for the next patient. A few days back, Damien stood before the Crown Prince, who asked him how he felt during the moxibustion treatment. Damien says it still hurts a little. Just then the Crown Prince delivers shocking news that he has been fully cured and no longer needs treatment, leaving him baffled as he thanks the prince, only to be met with a stern protest. Raquel tells him to listen to her before he makes a move. The Crown Prince offers Damien a high-paying job as his personal bodyguard to keep his amazing sword skills from going to waste. Instead of asking for his loyalty out of friendship, he knows Damien will grow into a sword master so sensitive to pain that he'll need a curse seal. So he insists Damien stay close when that happens. So he offers Damien a job to keep him close. Adds extra benefits, and when Damien stays silent, he drops a 4-day work week that makes the crowd behind him cheer, while everyone else, wanting to pay back their debts by guarding him, also offers to hire Damien on the same terms. He dryly agrees that they want the job for the pay, and feels relieved that they are honest since he thought loyal people often hold grudges. So he decides to hire them to form his own private squad instead of relying on the guards who are loyal to his father. He hands them a name of SRG and they cheer. But he turns away, sighing sadly that with only 18 days left and a body too weak to find more patients, his time is almost gone. After a while, he's spotted in a study telling Damien and Gordon that he's building a clinic right inside his palace. Suddenly, Gordon jumps at him and says that his cause is noble, because he wants to help sick people by opening a clinic. He wholeheartedly agrees, and explains that he wants to treat the residents of the side palace because he worries outsiders won't feel comfortable visiting, and his friend Gordon nods in agreement, adding that treating locals will spread the word and draw a steady stream of patients to his traditional medicine clinic. Now with his heart heavy, he realizes that after healing 500 people, his only reward is a 2-day extension of his life. So in his desperation, he cries out for a very sick patient, until suddenly the truth strikes him and he stops. He commands Gordon to find out where his palace servants' families live, convinced that someone in those homes must be ill. He feels pretty annoyed, seeing everyone look fine with only 10 pages left. So even though he's not hopeful, he keeps checking anyway. Damien cuts in to vent his frustration with the Crown Prince, leaving him utterly stunned by what he hears. Damien wonders if he is treating patients like tools, noting that while he knows he needs them for his research, it now seems like he is looking for them just as they are dying. Just then, Gordon tries to defend his master, believing he must have a plan, but the Crown Prince stops him and tells his doctor that Damien is actually right. Damien argued that he hadn't been rude to Gordon, as Gordon steps in to defend the Crown Prince by pointing out that Damien is being rude to him. Seeing this, the Crown Prince kicks both of them out of his room to check the last 10 pages. One page grabs his eye. Someone wrote in this questionnaire about an 8-year-old boy who shakes and foams at the mouth once or twice a week. Even the doctor and the priest examined him, but they couldn't help him. He read the words and felt a wave of joy, finally finding exactly what he had been searching for. The following day he finally meets the young boy, who is a bit afraid of him. So he steps closer and tells him to call him Raquel. Knowing it's George's very first visit to the palace and his first time meeting the Crown Prince, he wants to make sure the young prince feels right at home. He then shows a candy that makes the boy's face light up, but the boy's mood suddenly sours before he can get it. The boy warns him not to touch the Crown Prince because he is cursed, and that is why other kids bully him and call him weird. Then darkness fell. He shivered as if he'd been slammed to the ground, and when he finally woke up, he was weak. Suddenly, The Crown Prince grabs him in a tight hug and tells him he's a hero for putting up with all of it, with tears streaming down his face. George warns him not to touch him, because a terrible evil spirit lives inside. Right then the Crown Prince starts to figure out what's wrong with him. His system tells him George is healthy, aside from seizures from strange brain waves, so he calls it epilepsy, but can't find out what's causing those weird waves. He tells George he isn't strange, but when George looks on in shock, Raquel cheerfully declares him the Crown Prince and insists he's always right, leaving him stumped on what to do next since he has no idea why George's brain waves are acting up and no tools like an MRI to figure it out. Suddenly George shouts to him and he stiffens in fear. Realizing that George is seizing, he quickly lays the boy down right before Garden protests, and Damien flashes his sword. Wanting to see what they do, he yells at them to tell George he's just sick and in pain, then orders them to bring him a pillow. Afterward he gently laid George down on the pillow, and all eyes turn to watch him. George reaches out to gently wipe the foam from his mouth. He admits he's out of his mind and warns that George might swallow the towel, so they can't do anything until the seizure stops. Suddenly he spots mana flowing from George. Realizing it's because his Asura and core technique is so sensitive to it, he dives into the flow of mana to find what's causing the trouble. He checks for nerve damage, but finds nothing, even though he is getting tired. So after a moment he stands before George's heart and rushes toward it. Finally he tracks down the strange brain waves coming from George's vagus nerve, orders his team to bring a blanket and tells them to keep George asleep without waking him up as he collapses from exhaustion. After finding the cause of George's illness, the crowd worries, but he feels relief in his fading mind before he loses consciousness. After a few hours of sleep, he wakes up with a pounding headache, realizing his Asura core must have run at full power while he was out. Suddenly he jumps at Damien's voice, learning he's been asleep for half a day, and while Damien says George is awake but tired, he gets out of bed and wonders how his Asura core helped him make a perfect diagnosis, now that he can begin George's treatment by stimulating the vagus nerve. Damien, surprised by the late hour, asks where he's going as he puts on his coat. He gave a crazy laugh and says he's sure he's about to get hit by lightning. After a while, he stood before the great palace with Damien and the guards froze in shock at the sight of him. He tells the guards to walk them to Sir Sanitizes his room. It pressed forward to the palace mage. Sir Sanitizes in his private quarters. He is shocked to find them there in the dead of night and asks why they are there, only for the Crown Prince to laugh and tell the mage to strike him with lightning, leaving the poor mage completely confused. The mage remembered yesterday's visit to the Emperor, who had told him that the Crown Prince had been acting strangely lately. He smiles but says he's worried about what his son might do next. The mage rolls his eyes at the Emperor, thinking the ruler has gone mad about his own son. Right now the boy shakes the grumpy mage so hard, while begging him to zap him with lightning. The mage stares at the mad Crown Prince and begs him to stop, warning that this impossible trick will kill him and leave the mage guilty of the death. The Crown Prince insists he doesn't need to travel far, only a few hours of electric shocks, which makes the mage equally fed up with this new request. Though lightning magic is deadly, the prince demands he hold back its fury and keep it under perfect control for 3 hours. He asks the prince if he realizes how hard the request is, and the Crown Prince replies that he understands fully, which is exactly why he came to him, since no one else could ever do it but him. Hearing the compliment, the mage almost agrees to the request but hesitates, fearing he might hurt him. The Crown Prince says they must act right now. He sits before the mage and nods when asked if he's ready, even though he secretly decides that since he can't risk testing such a dangerous spell on a child, he'll have to test it on himself instead. As the mage unleashes a precise stream of electricity, the Crown Prince turns the flowing power into sharp, glowing electrodes. Then he turns them into electrical signals to fix the faulty ones in George's vagus nerve. In the end he takes control of those signals, marveling at Asuran's core trick that lets him succeed. On his very first try he asked the mage to stop, but the mage just smiled and said he could go on all day. The next morning, a crowd of gossip hunters gathered outside his door. One of them pushes the door open, and suddenly everyone is standing there facing George and his doctor. The Crown Prince Raquel hands George a needle and admits it will sting a bit, but he calmly reminds her he's already had one in his neck without even noticing the pain. But he warns that what's coming will surely hurt. Now that the electricity is ready, it's time to send it into George. But he suddenly stiffens as he notices George's mana flow growing unpredictable. With dread he realizes George is about to seize, so he has to fix his nerves before it happens. George wonders how much more time he must spend in this state. He says he's got just 3 minutes, or maybe only 1 if things go wrong though. The whole process will take 30 minutes. For a brief second he considers stopping the treatment, but he shakes it off because stopping would only feed the gossipers wild rumors and leave him wondering how much longer the mage will stay to help him. He finally decides to move forward and ask the mage to make the magic 3 times stronger. The mage says it will hurt, but he waves the warning away, only to get hit by lightning anyway. Yet he keeps his eyes on the job. He had to soak up the mana if he wanted to finish the job fast. He frantically tries to find the carotid to stick the electrode in, knowing he only has 5 seconds left before the seizure hits. Just as George seems ready to cease, he suddenly snaps back to normal and stares right at the Crown Prince. Everyone, especially George's sister, is shocked that the seizure never happens, while the Crown Prince feels drained from the non-stop electric shocks, only to be told by his body that he has successfully completed the nerve surgery. He gets a 3-day free pass as a reward. Not only does his Asura hand core technique leap to level 2 in a single circle, boosting his mana, but a notification also announces that his lungs and large intestine have soaked up metal energy, making him immune to wood magic. The wood energy wakes his new liver, which bursts into the organ realm as a furious boss, leaving the large intestine thrilled to finally be part of the team. Instead of feeling happy, the liver slaps the large intestine and deadpans that he won't make a newbie of him unless the other guy is ready to die. Before long he gives our boy 300 health points. Our boy's other parts also give him 500 health points once they meet their new partners. On top of that, his organs are so happy about the liver's birthday party that he even gains 300 HP. He feels pretty happy about getting all these achievements and extra health points in one day. But when he wonders if there's something more, his system says no right then. George asks if he's being weird. That little boy says that usually when he feels weird, he loses control, but not this time. Raquel promises that these fits will stop and he'll even give up the Crown Prince title. As George's sister stood in the crowd listening to everything, she began to feel very emotional. George turns to her and pulls her into a warm, loving hug. Raquel announced that the operation was a success, and the news made everyone feel deeply moved. He hopes to spread the word about George's treatment so a rush of patients will bring him extra time. But stress overwhelms his body, blurring his vision and knocking him out. When night falls he wakes up and spots Garden, the palace mage, and Damien standing right before him. He makes a joke wondering if there's any work left, besides just watching him sleep. The Garden states with a sad face that he is baffled because Raquel has been sleeping for 2 days, but the mage cuts in to accuse him of trying to kill him. He looks terrified as he asks how he can tell the Emperor that his son is hurt because of the lightning magic he just used on him. Our guy nervously says sorry to everyone around him. Then he asks for George, and right then, George walks into the room. He explains that he is begging Gordon to let him stay, and then he hands over a handmade wooden locket. Watching his hard work, our guy feels a twinge of guilt for not helping George out of kindness but just to live longer himself. He starts to speak, but George cuts him off, insisting he wants to help people just like Raquel. That remark left him completely speechless. He admires his necklace and says that watching George get better is the best gift he could ask for. Then he sends everyone away to rest. And as they file out, George says goodbye before the room is empty. Once the room empties, he glares at the necklace, annoyed that anyone would ever want to wear such a plain thing. But as he sleeps mocking his own words, he finds himself wearing it, and the scene changes to a commoner's home. A mother questions her son about why he isn't at work, but he breezes in to greet his parents and explains that the Crown Prince has granted him special leave to spread the news about his bizarre treatment methods. Later the boy tells his parents that he and his friends have been given 5 days off. He also points out that the Crown Prince is acting weird, like wanting to treat people. Then he hands him the paper. It's a special pamphlet where the Crown Prince opens his free medicine clinic in his side palace, and while he does that, our boy gets super excited to see if the rumors about it are true. Gordon cuts him off to say it's time to leave. As they journeyed onward, Gordon noted that he'd risen early that morning, and his companion explained it was simply because it was his first day at the clinic. Gordon tells him he's got every medicine ready, even the hard-to-find liqueurs. Right then our guy give him a thumbs up, telling him he needs lots of liqueurs for all sorts of tricks, so he orders him to stock up as much as he can. Gordon nods in amazement, wondering how the Crown Prince learned to make potions and give acupressure treatments. He mentions he needs to know because he's a doctor, and after losing sleep over his research into the Crown Princess methods without finding any answers, he's clearly upset Raquel. Being a doctor gets why Gordon feels lost, and he explains that he's actually from another world where he ran a traditional medicine clinic, so he knows all about these new things. But Gordon doesn't believe him and keeps demanding the truth. Raquel insists he's telling the truth and wonders why Gordon won't leave him alone about it. The Garden spoke with firm resolve. saying he was determined to become a doctor like Raquel. In reply, our boy says he's already doing it, and tells him to go ahead, and his garden walks away. Raquel thinks that garden is why he's come this far. Then he thinks of his clinic and prays for many patients, worrying that the stress might give him PTSD. He swings the door open with a happy shout to greet the patients, but his face turns pale when he finds the hall empty, until Gordon points down, revealing a huge crowd of people pushing their way inside. After a while, he finishes examining a patient and tells his servant to check on the others while he scolds the maid for mixing the medicine wrong, knowing the whole nursing system needs time to get back on track. After treating many patients, he levels up his pulse skill, learning to see not just the patient's overall health but also specific problems in their internal organs. By feeling their own body's rhythm, the scene moves to the organ world, where everyone is ready to go on blind dates with the patient's organs. His heart says he only wants someone just a few years older or younger than him, but the liver warns them that they are heading to meet all the older people, and when they see them, everyone feels let down by the thought of talking to them. Even though they didn't want to, they handed over the results anyway. They found nothing wrong except a little constipation, but the liver warned that he has hepatitis, so he must stop drinking alcohol. The old man is stunned to learn his liver will only last 5 more years, a fact that becomes the key to his treatment, so he vows to wake up all his other organs to help him. Turning to his patient, he explains his sick liver and gives him medicine for 10 days. Then warns in a flat voice that the man will likely die in 5 years if he keeps drinking, adding that if he doesn't quit, he'll be thrown in jail by the crown prince. The man freezes with sheer terror at those words, then quickly sends every patient who is in critical act home. Then the servants turn to him, showering him with praise and begging for forgiveness for their mistakes. He nervously cheers them on for their hard work, worries that they need a better system to handle more patients, and silently wishes that nurses from our modern world could be there to help. Suddenly, Gordon crashes through the door, shouting that there's a patient who needs help right now. The boy begs him to rescue his mom. Once he gently laid her on the bed, he turned to the boy and asked how she was feeling. He tells her that she's been running a fever since the afternoon, and that she's gotten much worse since then. After checking her veins, he is horrified to realize she might have the same illness that killed 40,000 of Napoleon's men, and with dread he knows it is epidemic typhus, the deadly fever caused by a tiny bacteria. He pauses to accept it, but his liver tells him it has already found rickettsia bacteria in her blood, so he gulps down his worry and asks her son when she last took a bath, and the son says she did it yesterday. He then asks if her bed is tidy, and the son replies that she is very clean. After finding no clues there, he asked if she'd been anywhere where she might have picked up lice or fleas, and the son replied that she slept on a farmer couple's bed after her carriage broke down on the way home 15 days ago. He looks at her condition and decides she is suffering from a deadly fever known as epidemic typhus. He tells her son about her condition, explaining that she has been infected with lice. Looking at her age and fever, he realizes she could be fighting pneumonia, suffering brain damage, or even facing tissue death. He then tells the maids to wash the patient in warm water and dress her in her hospital clothes. He commands them to set her clothes and bed on fire, then bathe and burn their own garments right after. He even threatens to fire and punish anyone who disobeys his orders. Sends her son to tell her family about her condition. He stands in the kitchen with a bowl of kuzu root soup he made to ease her fever and pain. Then he gives her the first spoonful. 3 days go by with non-stop care, yet her high fever keeps her stuck, and he realizes the small bowl of soup just isn't enough to help her. She needs to balance her yin and yang because her energy has been drained. He knows he needs to find medicine with strong and energy to fix her balance. And after a moment of thought, he starts wondering where he can find it, realizing the treasure might be hidden in his father's vault. He tells Garden to bring the carriage around. He's not certain he'll find what he's looking for, but he plans to call on his father's help as the crown prince. After a while, he greets his father, who asks why he is there so late, and he asks to enter the secret vault. Noticing his dad's confusion, he explains that his sick patient needs a cure he might find in the vault. And when his dad asked how that connects to the visit, he says he's looking for the medicine to save her. His father can't believe it, thinking his son is just making an excuse to sneak into the vault for his own profit. While his dad finds his son's trouble funny, the crown prince is fed up and tries to explain that he doesn't have time to waste on his father's silly behavior, yet his father still doesn't believe him, thinking that without a proper education he shouldn't suddenly be judging others, so he demands proof that his diagnosis is right. At that, our boy asks if he can test his skill, and the emperor agrees, ordering him to diagnose the sick royal knight Roberto, promising that a correct answer will unlock the vault, while the boy's arrogant father insists no one else could possibly know the condition, since only the captain, his wife, and the boy himself do. After just a few seconds, the kid loudly tells the captain he's going bald, which leaves both the captain and the emperor completely shocked. The Emperor gestures to the captain's hair, which is thick and gleaming. This makes our hero pull off the captain's wig. Right back, the captain looks like he might finally give way. Then our hero looks at Damien and tells him to go ahead. On the way to the vault, Damien jokes about how he ripped off the captain's wig, and carelessly promises he'll do the same to him next time. After talking it over, they finally found the vault. The guards handed him a secret pass to the vault, and he asked what happens to anyone who doesn't have one. The guard says the magic inside the vault will start the attack and count as time, killing him if he stays in too long. In the end, he lets him into the vault, but warns him to get out before the sun rises. He is shocked to learn they only have a few hours left. So he rushes to the vault but stops dead in his tracks when the guard tells him he's been sent to the intermediate area instead. Fuming that his plan failed, he remembers his father only gave him access to the basic zone where he can grab just one thing. And he complains that his dad tricked him by not mentioning the level limits. When he tested him, he is still mad at his tricky dad, and decides to never ask for his help again. Once they step into the vault, they're stunned by how huge it is. So he sets an alarm for the night and turns to Damien for help, who then asks how they can find what they are looking for. He says they are hunting for anything that holds the power of ice. Once Damien spots something that looks right, he writes down the spot so he can visit it later, and they head off in opposite directions to cover more ground. But since our guy hasn't found a clue yet, he's counting on Damien to turn up something. As the bodyguard steps in front of him, he asks about the list. Damien hands him the list he can't read, then leads him to the only item in the vault with ice. Powers the shield. He examines the simple shield, which turns into an icy barrier when filled with magic. It looks more like a buzzard or cuff, but his eyes stay glued to the description of how it turns into an ice shield when filled with mana. With that, he starts pouring his magic into it to see if it works. It starts humming with his mana, and he keeps a close watch to make sure he doesn't use too much, knowing there's a hard limit on how much power he can push into the shield before it breaks. Then he pours his energy into it once more, this time with the same careful precision he once used to set the perfect shower temperature. A cold shiver runs through him, until a wall of ice rises up to guard him. He smiles and his bodyguard tells him he'll need a hand later. And they head over to the bonus HP, which is just as patient in the next instant. The guards spot Damien stepping out of the vault with his bodyguard and the sword his belt, but their question gets cut short when the crown prince, dressed in jewels and a velvet cape fit for an emperor, glares at them and demands that they stop wearing all those fancy decorations later. Gordon stirs from his sleep inside the side palace to the sound of noise, and spots Damien and the crown prince walking back in. Watching them together, he feels happy to see Damien strong enough to guard Raquel and to know she's found a real friend in him. Thinking on this, he brews some tea and carries it down to them. But the moment he spots Raquel powering up a shield while Damien swings his sword, he spills the tea and shouts that this is treason. Let's rewind a few minutes to when the crown prince asks Damien for help. Damien, deeply moved by the crown prince's kindness, was eager to follow any command. Yet his face darkened with annoyance when ordered to strike Raquel, until her ice shield shattered. A scene Garden watched from afar, without fully understanding. Damien argues he isn't a traitor, but the crown prince insists he must hit him with a sword to shatter the shield and collect the medicine residue inside. So Damien agrees to lower the shield to make the strike easier. The crown prince says he can't do it, because he has to keep pouring magic into the shield to keep it from fading. Damien realizes the crown prince needs him to smash the shield without hurting the prince. Smart Damien insists on a bonus for every blow he lands, refusing to become the crown prince's traitor without extra pay. Raquel sneers at Damien and asks if he wants to be paid for hitting her. Damien smiles and says he respects the crown prince for helping everyone, but he insists that this is a separate issue and he needs to be paid. Our guy gets that. Damien has suffered through tough financial times, so it makes sense he wants something in return. Raquel wraps her arms around Damien and beams that he's exactly the person she read about, but Damien's smile fades as he hears her. With that, he lifts the shield and says that Damien will get paid a day's wage for every time he strikes. As Damien strikes the man with his sword, he hopes to get paid on time. On the other hand, seeing that scene play out before him, our poor Garden has fainted. After landing the first hit, Damien warns him that he's about to go even harder, because his current power isn't strong enough to crack the shield. Damien halts his attack to see the crown prince, who looks like he is in terrible pain. Damien points out that he hasn't struck yet, but his hits still wouldn't break the shield. Damien wonders if he needs to get stronger, but our boy tells him he's already boosting his bonus just by hitting with weak swings. He charges his bodyguard until the shield finally shatters, and the hero immediately goes wild with joy at the chance for more extra life. As he steps toward the palace, he spots a faint shape of Garden sleeping there, and can't help but wonder why. After a while, he stirs up a batch of his usual kuzu root soup tossing in pieces of the ice shield, and then tucks some of the stuff away in his magic pockets. His system flashes him a message. Eddie has just unlocked a new ability called Tonic Concoction. This skill boosts the tonic's power by 10 and lets him see exactly how well it works, how harmful it might be, and what side effects it could cause. As he drops the tonic in his system, prompts him to use a special skill to read it, and he says yes instantly, learning that it can heal water energy and break fevers, while warning him to be careful with how he uses it. He's thrilled to read this, because it means he finally stops having to test the medicine on himself. After realizing it can restore water power, he is certain it will help save Madame Dinrier. With that same drive, he carries the soup to her room and asks her son how she is feeling, only to hear his disappointed reply that she has not recovered at all. Noticing how weak she was, he hoped the soup would help, gently persuading her to drink the bitter tonic while telling her that good medicine often tastes bad. He stepped in to look after her for the next 10 days. Everyone was blown away when they saw him, caring for her all by himself, and that made his team look up to him even more. He pushed through his exhaustion, desperate to survive just a bit longer, to catch that bonus life before it slipped away. His system cheered him on, telling him he had finally cured the patient's epidemic, typhus, and, thanks to his hard work and the respect he'd earned from his team, his medical skills had leveled up, making him 1.5 times more effective than before. As his patient got better, he also earned an extra 154 days to live. Seeing that he could get rewards this way, our mischievous hero decides to pretend to be someone better just to earn praise and more bonus life. The carriage rolls through the woods with him inside. He's been handling everything on his own, but he knows he can't keep going without hiring professional nurses. Soon after a while, Madame Dinrier and her son step out of the carriage, and she thanks him for the ride since he also healed her, wondering how she could ever repay him. He grins at the thought of his extra life, then politely tells her that seeing her health is reward enough for him. The words make her feel deeply touched by his kindness. They wave goodbye and are ready to go. It looks like our guy has a secret plan, so he grabs her son and pulls him into the carriage to have a talk, even though the kid is nervous about chatting. With his back turned to the crown prince, but the prince doesn't mind at all. The son waited for Raquel to explain her purpose, but she stayed silent for a while. Suddenly, our guy starts whining about how sore his body feels and how little sleep he's gotten. While watching his mom hearing this, Dinrier offers to pay him for caring for his mother, but our clever hero refuses, saying he can't accept gift from patients because it would ruin his reputation. Yet the son keeps insisting he truly wants to do something in return. Hearing that, our hero is thrilled to take up his help, since the young man isn't actually his patient, so it's perfectly fine for him to accept it. He then asks him to help with something, showing that Dinrier is actually an artist. A few days later in Frontier Plaza, a landlord tries to convince a boy to work for the crown prince, but the boy laughs him off, bragging that he never misses a rent payment, even though he has no job. The landlord snaps back that he's 2 months late on his rent, sending the boys scrambling to get cash, while a hooded girl watches them think, before the scene jumps to a busy art gallery where everyone stares at one painting. Our boy stands there with Dinrier, as Raquel celebrates his big break into being a professional artist, but Dinrier looks unhappy because his paintings are terrible, and he hates showing them off. Some of the pictures show the crown prince in wild poses with a captain saying "I want you," while others feature him and his friends in cool stances. One of his very detailed paintings shows him as a crying girl, which Damien wants to cut out. While Dinrier worries that his art won't help him find a nurse, the crown prince confidently shows him his own painting of Raquel surrounded by strong nurses, and a captain who wants to go to Ganho, promising high pay to anyone who signs up to become one. And so many people agree to join. The scene moves to a stall where Garden is signing up eager people for the nurse test, who are so excited by this huge pay that 1 month's salary could cover 2 years' rent. While that same mysterious girl stands in line, carefully checking the application rules, when she sees that only Empire residents can apply, her straight back shows she's ready to try, while our boy feels happy to see so many people wanting to be nurses. When Damien asks why he's so happy, he replies that getting more nurses means more patients to cure, which will help him live a longer life. Meanwhile, Damien is totally won over by our boy's kindness, which is even more impressive given the high salary he offers. After 6 days, the Show Me Ganho event begins, to test if the people are ready to be nurses, and a mysterious girl arrives right on time, feeling great to be there. The host calls everyone together to show off the very first challenge for the nurse selection test, but then he drops a surprise. The task won't start until next week. After a week, the host reveals the first challenge of the nurse selection test and urges everyone to hurry into the interview area. They split the 50 racers into 5 groups, heading for the side palace. But the surprise twist is that only 10 from each group, who reach the side palace first, will move on while everyone else gets eliminated. shocking the crowd and sending them all sprinting to get there before the others. The moment 10 hopefuls step into the special zone, the guard cuts the rest loose, and they rush straight to the next challenge, hunting for the one ingredient that's been left out in the open. Among a huge pile as they were doing this, one of the candidates took a tumble and hit the ground. Everyone stares at him for a moment, wondering if they should jump up to help the candidate, but nobody leaves their table to do it. Our boy watches everything, with a serious look on his face. Then the garden declares the test over, and tells everyone they'll hear about their results in a few days. Everyone waits anxiously for their test results. Nobody returns to help the sick candidate, which suggests our hero is setting a scene to see if the candidate has a heart for helping others. As soon as the candidates leave, he hurries to the ill person, who is none other than Damien, who is